We were talking about like how different cultures like
It's the 80s, I think.
experience like sexuality differently, and like that's like I find that northern countries have got a completely different like way of even talking about those subjects. Like there's always a taboo. Like in like Latin countries, like it's just a top. Like it's weather. Like it's so natural. It's so it's how do you say it's non-threatening. Like it really is non-threatening.
So the Brits, developed the double entendre. I mean, that's what everything is hinted at when it comes to sex. It's never explicit. It's always, there's some innuendo.
And then that's why they're not that famous for having the greatest of the greatest lovers, that is true. Like like I think that there's I'm not like
one stereotype to another.
I'm not saying that it's a generalization, but there is like definitely some cultural thing there where there's the taboo doesn't facilitate the openness to sex.
But I think the common theme here that we're exploring about the images that you see on social media and other in social platforms, and the images across the decades that have come out from Hollywood, so they are not reflective of what life is like generally. I mean, there are things around the side. There are good movie makers who do portray. Is it Danny Boyle? I want to say Danny Boyle.
Danny Boyle, the Trainspotting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, was that Trainspotting?
Yeah.
But we've got those movie makers who they're not making the Hollywood blockbusters, but they make good films, good content, which are reflective of real life. But generally, that's not the case. And is that because the audience there isn't the viewing audience for it? Do we want to be? Do we want to be sold? Do we want to get lost in fantasy?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is like it comes and goes. It's kind of like fashion. Like like comedy gets into fashion, and then like you got these much lighthearted movies like during the 80s, and like now I think we're in a phase of like pretty lighthearted stuff. Like everybody's okay, like all back in the 80s, like Arnold Schwarzenegger carrying like a big log, and it's ridiculous, but it was fun because it was so over the top, and like people were not taking it seriously. But then like after that came like a much more, everything became very serious. All the movies like the Batman movies stopped being Tim Burton and became like the Dark Knight, which is great. It's a great movie, but it's just like the vibe of the whole thing changed into something more serious.
You're right.
But the thing was about like you didn't going from Tim Burton to The Dark Knight.
No. Process.
No. But what I'm saying is that going from that to that, there's still an archetypal story though. I guess like to your question, we talked about this with Star Wars because there's this. I wouldn't say a controversy, but Star Wars has evolved and changed quite quickly, and it's now. There's been some discussion. Well, it's quite frustrating to see that it's not the same Star Wars from some people, and then other people are excited, obviously, because you start to challenge some of the portrayals, and maybe one doesn't do as well. And I guess like what will tell is the test of time, right? Are these stories that we go back to? Are they human? Are they archetypal? Are we drawn to something specific about these stories? And I think it comes with time. And I don't know the answer to your question, but I feel like we are drawn to some of these narratives. For some.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I guess my point is then there's enough room for both.
Sure.
I mean, because I love fantasy. I mean, Star Wars. I loved Star Wars. I love that movie. It actually came at a time when I actually lived for 5 years on a tiny Caribbean island, and when I moved there, there was like I think 1 or 2 TV channels, and they weren't full time. And I had this little portable television and a huge hulking video recorder, recorder, VHS. And I brought some videos with me, and one of them was Star Wars. So I watched the trilogy, and I watched them over and over and again. I loved them, and and I still do. So I think there's absolutely room for those, sort of fantasy. I'd like to be in one. I wanted to be John Boyega's mum. But anyway, another time perhaps, another saga. But I think there's room for other stories.
That's it.
They just don't get through those other stories. I think, the big budget movies are all these sort of glossy in the main, fantasy. I mean, even the ones that aren't supposed to be fantasy are really fantasy.
Well, when are people gonna just stop watching them? Because like they're not maybe at some point they're. I mean, I'm not always a huge fan of Hollywood because for me Hollywood films tend to be, unless they're really challenging, they tend to be really obvious, and they're so obvious at times that you just don't enjoy the watch because you can kind of see it coming, and that line was not real, and and which maybe with European films is a bit different.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know what's the. I really don't have a traditional filmology experience because and I didn't used to watch so many movies until I moved to the UK, and then I moved because I studied here, and when I moved I just started devouring movies from all over the world. Like I'm talking like Bollywood to Japan to Russian movies to European I think it's just people are just so used to the Hollywood stuff that they think that's movies, but it isn't. There's so much interesting stuff out there, and it's like it's a shame because like you're saying, it becomes quite formulaic, and it's like why? There is space. There isn't the market. Maybe I wonder if that's the thing.
I don't know. I think sometimes we're or not we, but the powers that be underestimate the audience. I think. I think they underestimate their ability to their imagination, their ability to run with a story. I think
even their attention spans. I mean, the podcast. And this is not movies, but podcasts. Like people thought that people wouldn't watch an hour-long conversation, and look. Now we've got podcasts, and everybody's crazy about podcasts. So it turns out people are actually a lot smarter, and their attention spans are a lot longer than people have imagined. And it's like it's sort of it's like a subversion of the story that we've been told the whole time. It's so strange.
Right.
But I guess that's also kind of been the theme of the discussion, which is with the kind of the legislation in Portugal, and what are ways that you are flipping the paradigm even just slightly, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on Orisun and what your hopes are for that, and obviously you're already doing that including real people, including non-actors.
I would definitely like that to be part of our journey, to have to cast people who aren't trained actors. But I mean, what I would like to eventually do. Okay, here it is. This is my big plan.
Let's do
Did
it.
you see that light in my eye? Okay, here's. So I love theatre. I would like to make films too, but theatre is really what I like a lot. I would like Orisun to have a place in southeast London, a theatre space, a community hub, a creative hub, where people who normally go to see West End shows come to Deptford and see our shows. That's what, and the people who live around us don't have to, go up into the centre of London to get good theatre. They can just stay in their ends, and then everybody else from Hampstead and wherever can come and see good theatre too.
Yeah.
In Deptford.